Hello everybody, today I'm going to share with you guys my thoughts and impression about this Simgot King Wonder. Thank you so much Simgot for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts and honest opinions with my viewers. I appreciate this very much. But guys, rest assured that whatever I say is my own opinion, okay? This video is not scripted and Simgot would be watching this video at the same time as you guys are watching, okay? So in this video, I'm going to go through the accessories, the specs, the fit and comfort, and the sound impression. Now, I'm going to timestamp this video, right? Some of you guys have requested for it, so I'm going to timestamp it so that you guys can skip around, all right? So let's begin the review. This IEM, the King Wonder, is now retailing for $189.99. okay, I'm going to leave a link in the description below. This link is unaffiliated. I'm not making a single cent from this link, so please feel safe to click on it, okay? Right, so let's take a look at the box. This is a very nice box, right? A very nice picture in front. Very good unboxing experience lah, I might say. And at the back here you do get a picture of the headphone jack, right? So this headphone jack is quite unique, which I'll talk about later lah, okay? Now at the bottom there are some specs, so let's just quickly go through the specs. So essentially this IEM is a single dynamic driver IEM, and it's got a 10mm 5th gen dual cavity dynamic driver, and the diaphragm is made from DLC and beryllium plated composite diaphragm, okay? The impedance, right, is 32 ohms and the sensitivity is 108, and then the frequency response is 20 to 40,000 hertz, okay? And then of course it comes with the cable. The cable is an 8-strand 5N silver plated OFC braided cable, so it's a 8-core cable essentially. Okay, now inside the box, right, you get some paperwork, and one of the paperwork that stood out to me was this thank you card lah. So very seldom I receive a thank you card from the CEO, and this one really touched my heart, okay? And the rest is just instructions and the user manual lah. I'm not going to go through that. Now next is you will get ear tips, right? So you get 3 sets of ear tips, small, medium and large, and the medium is already on the IEM itself, and I actually pretty like this ear tip. The inner core, right, is pretty good quality inner core, very thick, and also is quite rubberized, and also it's got this grip to the nozzle of the IEM, so it's pretty good. Then the ear tips itself, the flange itself, is not too soft, not too flimsy, not too hard also, and it's got a bit of rubbery feel to it and not too sticky, so it's just nice lah, somewhere in the middle lah. So I kind of like using this ear tip, okay? And you'll get a carrying case. Now this carrying case got a magnetic lid and it's made of leather. It's a hard case. Let's do a smell test to see if this is real leather. Yeah, it's synthetic leather, right? So on the inside, right, you see some sleeve here to actually slot in the cable's 3.5 headphone jack, right? There are 3 of them, later I'll show you. And then of course inside here you got some elastic mesh pocket here, so that you can put your ear tips lah, and then you can put your IEM and your cable inside here. So a pretty good quality case, right? Let's talk about the cable, right? So this is the cable which I talk about, and there are 3 different 3.5 headphone jacks, and these are really special because they are tuning headphone jacks. So each headphone jack got different tuning, right? So if you change this headphone jack to the cable, which is quite simple, all you need to do is connect the headphone jack to the corresponding dot. You can find the dot here, and once it's connected, right, you will then get a particular tuning, right? So different headphone jack will give you different tuning, and they are color coded, which I'll explain a little bit more in the sound impression lah, okay? Right, so this cable is a 8-core cable. Now once I think this cable, right, what I feel is that it's a little bit soft lah. It's a little bit too soft for me. I find that it's quite tangly. Alright, so I wish that this cable had a bit more body to it, a bit more character to it, so that it doesn't fall apart and collapse with on each itself, and then it's very hard for me to untangle lah. Okay, so this cable is okay. It's a good quality cable, right? It's got a chain slider and of course a wire splitter. They are both made of metal, and the ear hooks, they are pretty soft lah, so pretty standard ear hooks. Okay, now let's talk about the IEM themselves. The IEM is quite pretty, right? It's got a unique design, and the faceplate, right, is made of glass, and underneath that piece of glass is some design, the pattern design that looks like a leaf or something like that. Okay, but it's a pretty unique design. And on the inner shell, in fact this entire shell, right, is made of stainless steel. Okay, so it's a very good quality feel to it. I can feel the weight also. There's quite a weighty little IEM. Okay, and it feels good also. It feels quite sturdy, right? On the inside it's quite smooth. There's no contours, there's no fin or curvatures here, so it's just flat. Okay, and then you have your nozzle, which is also part of the entire shell itself. The nozzle is not too narrow, not too wide lah, so it's pretty normal bore. And then you have the metal mesh filter. So in terms of the aesthetics, this IEM looks pretty nice and pretty unique. Now, fit and comfort. For the fit itself, right, I find that this is okay, not the best fit. Okay, I hope that there's some contours here that actually contours to the inner side of my ear and doesn't really shift a bit lah. Now what happens is that it shifts a bit because it's not really gripping to the or contouring to the inner side of my ear, so it does shift, and I need to really angle it to get the right fit. Okay, so but it's okay lah. It's not the 100% fit. Okay, now comfort wise, there's no discomfort. Right, there's no sharp edges. The IEM itself is rounded, or mostly rounded corners, and they are very comfortable to wear, and I can wear them the entire day. It's pretty non-fatiguing type of wearing experience lah. Okay, so that's for the fit and comfort. The seal, it depends, right? If this one, if I don't get the right angle, right, in terms of the fit, then I don't get the seal. So I have to fidget a little bit, just to get that right seal. But once I get that seal, it cuts off the ambient sound pretty well. Okay, right, so now let's talk about the sound impression, and for that, let me take out my graph. So be right back. Okay, so I'm back, and this is the graph that I measured of the King Wonder. Now, but before I talk about the sound impression, let's just touch on the tuning plugs. Alright, so because this is the special part about this IEM. So essentially, right, there are 3 different tuning plugs, alright, and they are color coded. Black, blue, and red. Now for the black one, this one is the brightest, okay, and then you have the blue one, which is somewhere in the middle, and then you have the red one, which is not so bright lah, not as bright as the other 2. Now the black one is bright and it's got more air to the treble, alright, and it gives you the impression that it's got a wider sound stage lah, alright, but it's got the most energy, most sparkle, okay, for this tuning. And then you have the blue, which is somewhere in the middle lah. It's not as bright, it's not as energetic, but it still gives you that brightness, alright, for whatever you're listening to. So this is actually my go-to lah, my preference. The blue one is somewhere in the middle. Okay, and then you have the red one. The red one has got the darkest treble of the 3 lah. Okay, so basically the 3 plugs here, right, this one is the darkest, and it's got the warmest sound, the tone, the tone of it is the warmest, and also the soundstage is the narrowest. So the widest, obviously the widest soundstage, or sensation that it's got a widest soundstage is the black one, right? It's got most transparency and most air, right? And the darkest one would be the red one lah. Okay, now let's talk about the sound signature. I've tested this IEM with all my gear. I've listened to this on my iPad, my Hi-B R5, my Hip Deck 2, and of course my Zen Deck. Okay, so this is the sound signature. Basically the bass, right, is a linear bass, and the tone and the timbre for this IEM is more analytical. Okay, so what does this mean? It means that this IEM gives a very clean and linear sound. Okay, so for those of you who like analytical type of listening experience, this definitely will be the IEM that you want to maybe consider lah. Okay, now for the sub bass, right, is quite a shy sub bass lah. It's thin, a bit dry, and light. Okay, and the roll off of the sub bass is a little bit short. Okay, I wish this roll off is a little bit better, like give a bit more extension to the sub bass. But if you look at the graph, and also from what I hear, the sub bass, the rumble, right, is okay lah. It's not an extended rumble. Okay, I wish it was a little bit more extended. And then for the mid bass is a little bit too impactful for me, and like for example kick drums and snares and anything that with impact is a little bit too impactful and too obvious and too energetic for me lah. So I wish that this mid bass here was a little bit less forward, so that it's not so impactful until it's like overly done. Okay, so this mid bass here, it's a good bass, right? It's a good mid bass. The impact is good, but you can actually listen when you listen to the entire track itself, when the frequency is being added together, right, as a whole. I feel that the kick drums, right, is overemphasized to a point whereby kick drums, right, they sound just too much. Okay, so that's for the mid bass. Now let's talk about the mids. Instruments like the pianos and violins and the trumpets, they are forward. All right, very very good tuning for the mids. They actually sound very clear and forward. V-shaped tuned IEM, right, the instruments that are like recessed, and you can't really they don't really shine, and they don't really want to fight for the space. Okay, they are all veiled. But for this tuning, right, the instruments, they actually don't need to fight for any space. They are not impeded by the sub bass. The rumble is not impeding to the instruments. The mid bass, I mean, mid bass is impactful, but instruments do have impact as well. Like the pianos, they have that impact on the keys, right? So instruments, they sound nice lah. Okay, to summarize, they've got that clarity, but one thing is that the note weight is a little bit thin and light lah. So I wish that there was a bit more warmth, but when I used the red plug, it was a little bit better lah. It gave me a bit more warmth to the note weight lah. Alright, so I find that this plug's actually quite useful. It does change the note weight of the track that I'm listening to. So if I want more analytical, then I'll use the black one lah. If I want more warmth, then I'll use the red one, and depending on what track I'm listening to. Okay, so that's for instruments. Now for vocals, same thing. Is more analytical tone, and that they sound correct. All right, they sound neutral, but they don't have that emotional engagement with me. Some tracks they do, okay, but they sound pretty analytical to me lah. Okay, and I hope that the tuning had a bit more of the rumble here, more of the sub bass, so that it gives a bit more warmth, okay, to the vocals, especially male vocals. But yeah, that's for male vocals. Female vocals, on the other hand, right, they sound energetic. They got sparkle, especially with the black tuning, right? So this black tuning, sorry, where's the black tuning? plug. Okay, so this is the black tuning, which is the brightest, and it gives me more energy, more transparency to the female vocals, and more sparkle, right? Some tracks may sound a little bit shouty, but you know, for me it's actually bright lah. To me they are not shouty. Okay, and then there's the treble, right? So treble, I feel that for treble, right, is a treble head type of IEM, right? It's a bright, energetic, very intense type of treble, very clear and very airy type of treble. So cymbal strikes and hi-hats, right? Sometimes, okay, to me, sometimes it's a little bit on the artificial side, because the impact of the mid bass does affect the impact of the cymbal strikes and the hi-hats. Shakers not so much lah. Okay, sometimes the clapping, right, because there's also impact when you clap, so the clapping sounds a little bit unnatural. Cymbal strikes also sound a little bit unnatural lah, but that's got a lot of air, especially if you're using the black tuning plug, right? It's got a lot of extension to the cymbal strike, and it's a little bit unnatural lah. That's about it. But I find that, you know, it's very clear, very clean, very energetic, right? Sometimes it's a bit fatiguing to listen to, right? Because, you know, it's very bright. So that's why I like the blue one. Okay, the blue is not so fatiguing. I can listen for a longer listening session. But for the black one, it's really good, right? Very engaging, but just a bit too intense lah. All right, and I need to take a break when I'm listening to a black one. But if I want a easier listening session, more of a mellow type of listening experience, then I will choose the red one. Okay, so it depends again on what type of mood you're in, what type of listening experience, what type of song you're listening to. Okay, then you can change the plug accordingly. Okay, right, so that's for the treble. Now overall, as I mentioned, right, the listening experience on this is a good quality sound lah. Okay, but again, it's a bit on the pricier side, and a lot of competition out there lah for this type of price. And in terms of tuning, I find that it's okay. It's targeted at certain people. Okay, and for treble heads, definitely a good option to go for lah. Okay, but for those bass heads, maybe this might not be for you lah. Okay, but don't get me wrong, there's still the rumble there. It just may not be the bass head type of rumble. And yeah, it is for classical listeners, jazz, and instrumental genre of music, right? For those like pop and heavy metal, techno, trance, you still could use the red plug. But then again, it all boils down to the tuning lah. Okay, so even with this plug, it does not change the bass by a lot. Okay, in fact, it doesn't change the bass or the mid bass. So for bass heads, right, you'll still be wanting for more, right? But yeah, this is for analytical listeners and classical listeners. Right, so that concludes my overall impressions and thoughts about this Simgot King Wonder. I hope you guys learned something from this video, or even enjoyed watching this video. And if you did, right, do please give it a thumbs up. Okay, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Right, so that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you guys have a great day ahead, and I'll see you again in my next video. Cheers.